Stanford University.
Stephanie.
Okay, I was just curious to hear more about the intersection with like your careers and the Asian American culture that you come from. Like I remember like Michelle mentioning how F or failure is the F word in Asian American culture, which I thought was very true with like at least my own personal upbringing. So maybe like stories with like parents interacting with like what you guys are doing now, or just like how creativity or how you guys have learned to improvise and like actually find the creativity amongst like, you know what I mean. You know what I'm getting at? Like how you can like find creativity within a culture.
I'm lucky that I grew up in a family where my mom was an opera singer, my father was an ethnomusicologist, and so, you know, and like I said, I've been doing this since I was 5, so like they were very encouraging of it. That said, you know, when I went to Wesleyan and was like, I'm not going to be a theater major, and they were like, you're not going to be just a music major. You have to have something else. And, you know, they definitely had some of, like, expectations for me, and there were definitely times, like, when I was going to do Saving Faith, my mom had been telling me since I was a kid, you will never take your clothes off for a movie, ever. And so when I had to go and tell her that I was doing this movie, I had, like, a whole bunch of people with me so I could make the announcement to her. And once she saw that they were okay with it, then she was like, it's fine. Yeah. And then she was like at the church with flyers, like, saying, like, come see my daughter in this lesbian movie. So it was like, and similarly to this day, you know, like me, I blog about very personal issues that normally in an Asian family, you don't air your dirty laundry. You don't talk about abuse. You don't talk about your eating disorder. You don't talk about how your family shamed you, because that's not okay. However, in what I've discovered is by putting it out there, and my mother my parents, both of them just seeing like, oh, she's not alone. She is not the only one going through this. It was because it was so hard to have that conversation with them. They were able to see like, oh, there's an audience for this, and they support her. So I guess we'll support her too. And actually, you know what? We're going to be kind of proud. We're going to be pretty proud of her. I don't know if that answers your question, but it was more. It's more of the thing of this willingness to just not be afraid to be held back by the ideals your parents had you growing up to do, because most of the time, what I've found, at least for myself personally, is that a lot of it was just talk. And that the second I actually demonstrated that I could be my own person and they could still be proud of me for, you know, I wasn't going to embarrass them. It was very healing for me to be able to get past a lot of obstacles in my life. And I have a lot of it to thank to my acting career, because my parents really like to see me up on a screen so that they can be like, that's my daughter. You know, they really like that. So that gives me a platform to be able to talk about things that are really important to me that they normally wouldn't be okay with me talking about.
This is more my personal experience. I grew up with a pretty fierce tiger mom. I wrote a show about her, so she's great material. But I grew up with a lot of ideas told to me, handed to me. You know, don't trust friends, they stab you in the back. You know, things like that I kind of make fun of now as an adult. But these things permeate, and you start to walk into rooms a certain way, maybe a little held. When I look back at the way I used to audition, I used to come in, and I would be the perfect actor. I would come in, my lines would be memorized, I would have my take, I would say hello, very politely, and when someone first said to me, it wouldn't hurt if you had a personality. I'd be like, but I'm not a personality actor. That's not what I do. Things like that where I realized that from a child, from my upbringing, from no fault other than my parents wanting to protect me from the world, they taught me the right things to do, how to present myself to the world. What was considered good, what was considered bad, the things you don't do. So that's the energy I would bring. And I would be afraid to say something stupid, or speak up, and because maybe the thing I was going to say was going to get me into trouble. Maybe I offended someone. Just little things like that for me in my upbringing, where I was told how to behave rather than having the experience of actually learning, this is how I really feel, which is what an actor has to bring to the table. You take a look at words, and the writer's given it to you, and rather than you thinking, this is what I'm supposed to do, you actually think, this is what I think I would really love to do, because this is what interests me, this is what excites me. And when you have that father figure or that mother figure telling you that, you don't ever get to the place where you decide for yourself, it's not about what I think they want me to do in the room. It's about what I want to do in the room. And that's what energizes you. And that's what makes you stand out from the crowd, because there's something special that you brought that they didn't think about. Maybe they were looking for this, but they didn't think about that. So in order to get to that, I had to really, really, really break a lot of old habits. So that's just my own thing. I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about that.
Why is that one too? You're pretty good on this. I think we have time for one more question. So.
Thank you. My question is, beyond those obstacles and prejudice of the image of Asian American, I was wondering whether you guys have found any unique gift of the treasure of your heritage and the richness of your tradition, that those unique gifts as Asian American, that you can bring something that amazes the mainstream of American culture. You can contribute and you can surprise with your roots, with your Asian American roots. And then you find some advantage of being Asian American that you're proud of, that only you can bring to the mainstream American culture. Can I make myself clear?
Who was that? Tanush?
Wow. I'm inspired right now. I want to go to the mountaintop and tell my story. I've become a very cynical hater over these years. You're right. That's my mission now. I should do that. I think no, because this is what kind of gets you into filmmaking in the first place, right? You want to tell your story. You want to tell your family's story. I think the further you go along, you get away from maybe some of your roots in this industry. You get away from you find other ways to be successful. You got to do other that film that you're talking about. That beautiful vision is hard to get made, I think that, but I think it's in everybody's heart, I think if there's a way I can make that film, I'd like to make it. What's the exact question?
Like, what do you bring to the table?
Through your Asian American.
Yeah.
Well, I think humor. I mean, humor is I think that, in Punjabi house especially, I'm in Punjabi, there's just always jokes. There's jokes going left and right. There's always something funny. We're always making fun of ourselves and making fun of our, there's just a lightness of spirit, and I think that I hope I can bring a certain kind of brand of that into some of the work I do. I think. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I would say as an actor, I think it's a real I mean, every role I do is a part of me, right? I'm putting a part of me into all of it. And so who I am and where I come from is a huge part of all the work that I do. Now, some of it may be more literal, right? Like if I'm playing an actual Indian American coming, you know, when you talk about that. And I've done that. I've done a number of movies that deal with Indian American experience. Was it my experience? No. But if I didn't have my experience growing up, I wouldn't be able to tell that story. Or had the community that I had around me, would I be able to play these roles the way that I did? You know, I think I don't think I could be the actress what I am or could be if I didn't have the richness of experience that I've had growing up, being able to travel as much as I have, being able to go to India for a big part of my life, having a family, growing up in an immigrant family. I mean, all of those things is a part of who I am, and I think that everything I do is somehow dealing with that, even if it's under me and you can't see it, but every part of me is in that.
I think my uniqueness, it always comes out through food. I was just watching at the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival, the opening night film was Linsanity, about Jeremy Lin, and there was a scene where they're at the night market, and I turned to my husband, and I grew up going to Taiwan almost every year until I was 18, and then just stopped after my grandfather passed, and I just turned to my husband and I was like, that looks good, let's go. And before I knew it, like 3 days later, we were like, we're going in December. We are going to Taiwan. And it was almost like my blog's given me this platform to be able to talk about food in a way that, I mean, who doesn't want to talk about food? It's the thing that bonds every single one of us more than 3 times a day sometimes. And if we can teach one another, I mean, there's something that I've found that's been really great for me is that I can talk to people, other artists, other directors, other actors, other producers, not about the project I'm working on, but about a great restaurant or a recipe or their grandmother's cake. You know, like there's something about being able to connect to people on that level that has opened all these doors unexpectedly. That's my unique Asian thing, I guess. I mean, Asians love taking photos of their food. And I've just brought that to an obsessive, crazy level and celebrated it. So
That's true.
I'm Taiwanese, and I was adopted, and I have a very wonderfully complex origin story. And they say for Taiwanese people, they're little people with big hearts, and that's a real big part of, I think, who I am. And I think it also defines a lot of what I feel in Hollywood because of all the obstacles one faces as a woman, as an Asian American, as also not necessarily an immigrant, but I'm not necessarily first generation either. So there's a lot of complexities having to do with my origin and where I come from. And I really believe that for me as a storyteller, the richness and complexity of my experience is what makes me deeply profound when I do my work. And that is also why I have chosen to use this work as my calling. And it's something that I've devoted myself to doing. And it's made me a really better person, a better human being. So I really appreciate this question because I think I draw from my very deep experiences so that when I do work, hopefully threads of what I have experienced in my life appear, no matter what the story is. And as I get older and more experienced, I still grab onto all those things. So for me, where you come from is who you are. And then, how I continue to tell stories, how I continue to build on that. It's a big part of what I feel is important to what I give. And now I'm just rambling. But
so wonderful.
but I do really, I feel like because some people feel like they have no stories to tell. I feel like I have so many stories to tell. And that's really a blessing because I have such an unusual upbringing and because I'm Asian and all this stuff. So I feel like it's a blessing and a curse, but mostly what you choose to do with it is the most important thing.
Little crew with big hearts, the Nice Boat crew. Michelle Chopra, Camille Chopra, Vikash,